Outdoor adventure won't wait for engine problems. Things like hard starts, rough performance, and lost fuel economy are often caused by fuel gum and varnish buildup. Seafoam can help your engine run better and last longer. Simply pour a can in your gas tank. Hunters and anglers rely on Seafoam to keep their engines running the way it should the entire season. Pick up a can of Seafoam today at your local auto parts store or visit seafoamworks.com to learn more.
There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
Welcome back to another episode of Cutting the Distance. Today's guest needs no introduction. He's none other than my co-host of Cutting the Distance. You get to listen to this guy every other week here on the show. In his spare time, he also likes to act as a figure model, and then he also trains cats. So if you have any cats that need trained, Dirk is amazing with cats, the felines. He's your guy. Welcome to the show, Dirk.
Oh, hey there. Feline, my feline friend Olaf, he may even make an appearance if we're unlucky. He usually likes to crawl around on my keyboard when I get on a podcast. So, it's a fitness model. Let's get this straight. I'm a fitness model.
Oh, fitness model,
yeah.
Not a figure model.
Yeah, more fitness.
What's the difference between fitness and figure?
Fitness is more muscle. Figure's more like you got all the curves in the right places, I guess.
Oh, so that's not you.
No,
You're more muscle.
No, I've got. It's all. Hey, I'm big boned, all right.
Oh, so on today's episode, though, it's that time of year, right? It's and we try to make this podcast somewhat relevant to the timing of the year. Today is the 6th of February. So I feel like today is Arizona elk and pronghorn. By the time this comes out, though, you're already going to miss it. So hopefully I'm not the bearer of bad news that if you didn't get in for Arizona, you missed it 2 days ago, as this will be released on the 8th. But it's that time, right? We're all, me and you, every year, as much as we love elk hunting, as much as it's part of what we do, you're always trying to get some elk hunts, some elk tags, and even outside of elk tags, mule deer, whitetail, spring bear, whatever it is, you're trying to kind of plan the season. And whether you're a weekend warrior, whether you're a guy that uses 1 or 2 weeks of vacation, whether you're a guy that uses 3 or 4, I think management of that time and making sure you're in the best place or what's available, it takes a little bit of work and management and effort and studying and understanding of state systems. So on today's podcast, we're going to kind of go through that, like how do application processes work, maybe some reminders on dates, whether they're approved or tentative dates that you need to pay attention to as the year goes by, and then really want to kind of jump in more to our strategy on our personal strategies on how we look at each individual Western state and what we want to get out of that state, and kind of how we set ourselves up so that we have hopefully an elk tag in our pocket, if not, if we're lucky, more than one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be kind of a daunting task too, especially each state is so much different on how they conduct their licensing, their tag applications. It's a lot to learn. It definitely is.
It is. And even over the last 10 years, the evolution has been fairly quick. Oregon changing their system, Idaho. I used to be able I might be off a little bit, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I could drive to the gas station and buy my tag at the end of archery season if I needed to go on a hunt. Those days are long gone. So the system has changed, evolved. Some of the things that you used to be able to just count on are no longer there. Systems or seasoned state systems going, what used to be over the counter have turned to limited, and limited have turned to like premiums, and this target keeps moving. It's almost a full-time job keeping up on it and where your points are. And then, You throw in point creep into the thing, where you thought you were going to go in this many years, even based on projections, and then it moves. Arizona is a crazy state where it seems like, well, if there's this many people at this many points, I'll eventually go. And it's just people are coming out of the woodwork and changing the way they apply. And really, really makes it for you have to be involved in order to plan your season out. I'll say it that way.
Yeah. Well, like in Arizona, for instance, there's probably a lot of people out there like me who I haven't been applying in the draws at all. I just buy the bonus point every year and I'm stockpiling points to where someday when I get enough points and my schedule looks like, it's gonna work, because I want to dedicate the whole season, which the whole season's not like Idaho where you get a month to hunt. It's a couple weeks. And I want to be able to dedicate more than that. I'm going to get there a week early, scout, just, have the hunt of a lifetime. So I think there's probably a lot of people doing that same thing where they're banking points until one day they get like pretty close and they're like, all right, I'm going to apply this year. And then it screws up all the numbers.
Yeah. And then we'll get into it more. Like the crazy thing about Arizona and New Mexico is like sometimes they wait for a great moisture year. So you got like the point guard where people apply, they put point guard, and then they got like a dry year because you're applying before you know exactly what you're going to get for horn growth.
Right.
And then people are bouncing out. And so it's a very complex system, but we'll try to do our best. It's tough with me living in Washington, Dirk living in Idaho. We've tried to hunt as much as we can around the West, but a lot of times, some of these states, Utah, Arizona, are going to be once in a lifetime. So we just kind of sit on the outside, look in, try to understand their system, try to understand what's going on, and we'll do our best to break that down for all of you. So just like every episode of Cutting the Distance, we're going to start with some Q&As. Usually we grab them from you, our listeners. You can either send them to us at ctd@phelpsgamecalls.com, or you can hit us up on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and send us your questions there. We'll do our best to get them in here for our guests or ourselves. But today I went a little different method, knowing we were going to do more getting a tag in your pocket centric type of a podcast. I went to ChatGPT. I wanted to check this thing out, and I asked for 3 questions on how to acquire Western elk tags. So we're going to see if
You're a millennial, aren't you? You
No,
are.
I'm not.
I bet you could. What's
no.
your year of birth? I bet you fall in the millennial category because it's such a millennial thing to do.
I think I'm like 1 year on the wrong side, but I identify in today's day and age, I can identify as the other one.
Oh,
is the Gen
is that right?
Z or what, or the Y or whatever.
Gen X,
so I'm
the greatest generation.
Yeah, I'm crossing over into that category because you can't tell me who I need to be.
All right.
So the first question that ChatGPT generated, how does a tag application process work? And I know you might just defer right back to me. This might be a question for myself because each state's a little bit different, right? You can get some elk tags over the counter. So that application is literally show up at a gas station, apply early on, you get your tag. So when we say over the counter, that's a tag that literally can be paid for in person. You go out the door and you're hunting.
How many places can you do that these days?
So we're going to get into that body, but we'll just jump into it now. Let's jump into it now. So when I think, for me personally, my home state does, we'll get into that. Like Colorado is still like the crown jewel of over the counter elk hunting. They've got a lot of archery over the counter. They do still, preserve, whatever word you want to use. They do reserve some of their premium units for the draw. So they do have some draws. And then what Colorado does is their better muzzleloader hunts, their better rifle hunts, early season rifle hunts kind of end up taking your preference points. But there is a lot of opportunity within Colorado, even if you do have to apply some 0-point units. So it may be controlled, but you can apply. But Colorado is kind of the king of over the counter now. The Idaho went the direction they did. There are some opportunities within Washington and Oregon. In Washington specifically, all of our Roosevelt hunting, I say all, the majority of our Roosevelt hunting, with the exceptions of a few premium units up around Mount Baker, up around White River, and then some of the Mount St. Helens units. There's a few of them that are off limits, but the majority of the western side of the state, you can hunt Roosevelts over the counter every year. The same with Oregon. They have some reserved trophy units or better units on the west side, like the Powers unit. Some of these units that are more famed Roosevelts are in the draw, but you can still hunt a lot of the Oregon coast for Roosevelt's over the counter. Within Washington, though, we do have some Eastern Washington, very limited. We have some Eastern Washington where you're hunting true Rocky Mountain elk. There are opportunities. Now, with that said, I would say that they're low percentage, low opportunities. The guys that know how to hunt, know the areas, typically get it done. And then without that, like, I don't want to short credit Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, Utah, New Mexico. Some of these states, and I'm not going to get into it because I honestly, personally don't look into those. They have some B-tag opportunities, right? Where there's some antlerless stuff that may be over the counter, or some antlerless stuff that you can draw every year, which I would say still not over the counter. But there are opportunities to hunt every year in some of these other states. Utah has some select antlerless, I think spike only. Some of these states offer some units that are easier to get, but honestly, Colorado, Washington, Oregon are really your over-the-counter opportunities nowadays. Idaho still considers themselves over-the-counter, but
it's not.
Anybody that's followed the mess that's been, I don't say mess.
It's a mess. It's a train.
The system they've put in place for non-residents has really became maybe even more so of a lottery than just putting your dang name in a hat and seeing if you get drawn out. As much as I'm anti-draw and I love the idea of everybody going on an even playing field in Idaho, it's to the point where I don't know. I'm torn on it. I don't know the right answer. At some point, if it allowed me to hunt with my buddies, or at least have a chance to hunt with my buddies, I would love the draw. But I also love the idea right now as it requires some planning. It requires some dedication of your time to that day. It requires some of these things to get your tag. So I'm torn on which way, but Idaho is no longer over the counter.
Yeah, if you've ever ever tried to buy concert tickets and you get online when they first go on sale, you get into this virtual waiting room and you're assigned kind of a random number, no matter who was there first. They just assign people random numbers. So you could be number 1, you could be number 5,872, or 25,000. I hear a lot of those stories too in Idaho. And so if you and a friend wanted to go hunt there, you both have to log in separately. And let's say Jason gets a tag and I don't because I have a crappy number and he's got a really good number. It just makes it really hard for friends and families to go hunt together as non-residents in Idaho. I feel like the drawing model would be so much more simple. It would free up a lot of people's free time. It'd just be a lot more trouble-free process and allow, friends and family to hunt together instead of this. It's just not a good system. And I think, I think they're looking at it
act of God.
Yeah. And I think they're looking at it pretty hard to make some changes, but we'll see.
Yeah. We've been very fortunate that, we usually can get one buddy into a unit if it's a decent unit, but by the time, as fast as these tags are going, like, you have literally minutes and you better have a low number, and some of these tags are gone. And, so it's unfortunate. I would like to see that fixed. I know everybody's doing their best, and these game agencies, I would have to think they're trying to fix the system, but hopefully in future years in Idaho, they'll get that fixed. But within that, so back to how does the tag application process work? Some states have lotteries, some states have preference points, some states have bonus points. So when we talk about a state that has preference points, like Colorado, whoever has the highest amount of points is the only one that goes in a draw. So let's say there's 5 tags available and 10 people have the highest amount of points that apply for that. So let's say the highest amount of points in that preference point state is 20. 10 guys apply with 20, but there's only 5 tags available. You're going to go into a draw and you got a 50% chance of drawing that tag, right? Anybody with less than 20 points has a 0% chance of drawing. So that's how your preference points works. Bonus points, like my home state of Washington or Nevada, they are going to square your points, and that's how many numbers you get thrown in the hat. So let's say you have 20 points, you've got 400 numbers in the hat. If you have 10 points, you've got 100 numbers in the hat. So it gives you it gives you the preference of, I say preference is the wrong word. We're talking bonus points. It gives you the longer you apply, the better your odds are, right? It gives you that almost a loyalty points in a way.
Yeah.
And so Nevada and Washington run a straight bonus point system. Oregon and Utah run a modified preference / lottery system. So I'm going to get these numbers wrong, but I want to say 75-25. So 75% of the tags are given on a preference point system, and 25% maybe random, or 25% is like a bonus point. So then they give out a certain amount of tags that way. And then there's the over-the-counter sales. You need to understand, as you go into each state, kind of what your odds are, and that's kind of how they're going to be figured out. Whether you're a high point winner, they're just going to tell you have 0 all the way up to a certain point. You've got states like Arizona that I don't even know how they work, but there's always a random possibility. There's always a chance you can draw the tag, but it's usually very, very low until you get up towards those max point holders. My second question, and we answered already kind of in that. So what are the difference between limited entry tags and over-the-counter tags? So Dirk, correct me if I'm wrong. What I would say to describe this, most states designate certain areas within their state as being limited entry. It's usually they're trying to create a high quality hunting experience. Maybe bigger bulls, less hunters, more bulls, whatever it may be. It's some combination of those, pressure, whatever it may be. They're creating a limited opportunity, and they're usually the most sought after tags. And so what you typically get is those are harder to draw. They're more limited. Your draw odds go way down. And then on the very other end of the spectrum, you've got your opportunity tags, which are going to be your over-the-counter opportunities within that state. And I'm not going to, we're talking limited entry and over-the-counter. And then there's a whole bunch in between. So you have super premium on one side. Let's think, if you're a mule deer guy, the Paunsaugunt in Utah, or if you're an elk guy, back in the day, it was Unit 9, Unit 10 at Arizona, whatever it may be. Like, you have your ultra premiums, and then you've got your over-the-counter on the other end. And in the middle, there's lots of different options. And this is where we're hopefully going to get to in our main discussion, is how do you strategize that? Like, I don't need to be in Unit 9 or 10 at Arizona. I just want an opportunity but it needs to be better than over-the-counter, right? Or I don't necessarily want that. I want something that's maybe in between Unit 9. Maybe they've got giant bulls, but I'm gonna have to work my tail off. There's a sliding scale. And that's kind of the difference between those limited entry, over the counter, and then the opportunity of you getting those tags.
Yeah. And you have to look at opportunity too. Like, you have the opportunity to hunt elk or deer, whatever it is you're trying to pursue. So an opportunity rich tag, whether it's over the counter or an unlimited draw, something, there's lots of tags. You have the opportunity to go hunting. Now, you may not have the opportunity to see a mature class of animal. You may not have an opportunity to see a lot of animals, but you'll have the opportunity to get out there, pack your bow, your gun around, whatever, muzzleloader around, and see the country, and you just might run into one. So you really have to do some research and kind of figure out what is the best one for you, and or do you just want to get out there? Whenever all the if you come up empty on all the other options, maybe you still want to get out there and hone your skills. So it's all personal preference, really.
Yep. And then the last question generated by ChatGPT, how can I increase my chances of drawing a tag? And like I said, some of these kind of are running into each other as our first question. Our first question kind of got some answers. There's multiple ways, and we're going to dive into this. I would say number one, which you may or may not have a whole lot of effect on, is as soon as you get your hunting license, if your goal is to hunt out west, have your mom and dad start applying for you for 12 if you're older now, and you've got some time. Like, look at the reality of drawing tags. Like, to be honest, if I wasn't as deep as I am in some of these states like Arizona, Utah, not saying don't apply, but the odds now, if you're okay hunting late rifle, late archery, I think you still have a shot. Like, you just need to be realistic what your goals are. But if your goal is to hunt one time in a premium Arizona unit with with what Arizona is known for is elk hunting, you're going to probably be disappointed, and you're probably going to kick the bucket before you get that chance, right? But if you're okay going and hunting, a unit that maybe has broken bulls, and you just want to elk hunt, like killing, the most perfect put together, or getting that same experience as like an Arizona quality archery elk hunt, you can apply. So apply early, be realistic about your goals. My buddy Robert Hanneman, I've got a chance to do some, elk shape camps with them and been around. His whole goal is apply for less popular units. Like, just give me a tag and maybe limit the people, and then I'm going to go use my hunting skill to like do the rest, right? So you can apply for less popular hunting units. The tag, a lot of times, that opportunity in a somewhat decent unit is all we really need. And then you just have to participate in a lot of drawings and bonus point systems. Or the other opportunity is when you go into New Mexico or when you go into Idaho and they don't have point systems yet, it is an equal playing field. Now there are some odds stacked against you, but it's very level. And when you go into New Mexico, everybody's heard about the Gila, so I feel like I'm not blowing up somebody's spot, but maybe you don't go put in for unit 16. You go put in for a unit that has 45% draw odds. It's known to be a little bit tougher hunt that maybe isn't the premium dates, but there's just strategies where, being in those systems. And then for all of you that aren't math nerds, the chance of you drawing a tag, let's say I've got a 2% chance of drawing a tag, and let's say I put in 50 times. We all know that you multiply how many times you put in by the percentage of your draw, and I should draw one tag, right? So what that tells us is, yeah, it was a lot of 2% draw tag is very tough, but if I put my name in the hat 50 times, I've got I should, by the odds, draw one of those 50 tags. It's just how the math works out. Now, does it happen? Not very much. And is it expensive? Very expensive to put in for 50 tags. But what I'm saying is the more you put in, the more you're going to be rewarded on those tag opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've all seen plenty of gadgets and fads come and go, but here's one product that stood the test of time: Seafoam Motor Treatment. Lots of hunters and anglers know that Seafoam helps engines run better and last longer. It's really simple. When you pour it in your gas tank, Seafoam cleans harmful fuel deposits that cause engine problems. I'm talking common stuff like hard starts, rough engine performance, or lost fuel economy. Seafoam is an easy way to prevent or overcome these problems. Just pour a can in your gas tank and let it clean your fuel system. You probably know someone who has used a can of Seafoam to get their truck or boat going again. People everywhere rely on Seafoam to keep their trucks, boats, and small engines running the way that they should the entire season. Help your engine run better and last longer. Pick up a can of Seafoam today at your local auto parts store or visit seafoamworks.com to learn more.
There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
The other option, which we're not really getting into because I feel like residents know their own state and their own systems. When you're from Washington, like myself, I do hunt my home state. I did this year. I have in the past on special hunts, but I'm always thinking outside of my own state. So I'm basically a non-resident hunter on the ground on 99% of my planning. But within your own state, Dirk living in Idaho, I'm jealous of, guys that live in Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Montana. I think I already said Montana, but the guys that live in states that still aren't limited, like they have it the best. And I think over the last 10 years, Dirk living in Idaho can attest to it. Like hunters and outdoorsmen are moving to states just for that opportunity. But it's a given. They've got a chance to hunt good over the counter general stuff every year, where me in Washington, yeah, I can grind it out. I've got some good opportunity, but they're not the best hunts. And then you've got people that live in Nevada. They can't hunt elk every year, which is like a weird thing to me, even being from Washington. Like you don't get to hunt elk every year in your own state. Same thing with Arizona. Same thing with New Mexico, right? There's some states where these guys have turned into you hunt with your buddy or you hunt with your buddy's buddy when they draw just so you can be out in the field and experience it. So it's kind of all over the board on what your chances of drawing a tag. And that's not a bad system. And if you are in a state or you're learning to elk hunt, like going on hunts with buddies that draw tags or being invited or offering to be a packer, just being involved is gonna pay off when you do draw a tag.
Right. Absolutely. Going to the hunt, I've been going to the hunt expos for, I don't know, probably 12 years now, and talked to a lot of sportsmen, a lot of them in Utah. Don't want to pick on anybody in particular, but a lot of people in Utah. And you talk to people and said, "Hey, are you an elk hunter?" I'd like to be. I've been putting in for draws, and at some point, when I draw my tag, then I'm going to get really serious about elk hunting, but I've got 8 more years or 10 more years before I get into that point range where I can draw that tag. So I feel like a big mistake is people will kind of sit on their laurels all those years while they're trying to draw that crown jewel tag, but they're not honing their skills as a hunter. And they should definitely be hunting these lesser opportunities for big mature animals, maybe, but more opportunity to get out there, mix it up with some elk, learn some skills, learn how to maybe the way elk act, learn the biology, learn the country, learn how to move, learn how to hunt. That way, whenever you finally do get that really good tag, then you're going to be feeling a lot more confident in your skills.
Yeah. Build that foundation. You go out and try to put the top floor on the building without a foundation. It's just you're setting yourself up for a disaster. And get out, hunt with buddies. You hunt on your own, hunt hard units. You're going to set yourself up for a lot better chances when you finally do draw that tag, for sure.
Yeah.
So we spent a little more time than we normally do on those questions. But once again, you have questions for me or my guest or Dirk or his guest, feel free to email them to us at ctd@phelpsgamecalls.com. Or I know Dirk's got a little hotline.
Yeah, you can call in. You can call the super secret hotline, the CTD hotline, if you will. Phone number is 208-219-7701. Leave a message. And if you leave a cool question or a cool story, I'll play it on my podcast. Maybe Jason can play it on his, but we'll try to answer it or just kind of address it. And you have 3 minutes to record your question or your comment, and then it's going to cut you off. So make it quick.
Keep it short.
Yeah,
there you go. So now, we're going to jump into our discussion, jump into a little bit more about important dates. But before we get into our discussion, Dirk, I got some, I'm going to hit you with some quick questions. And this is all personal preference. There's no right or wrong answer.
I feel like you're going to judge me, though. You're always judging me.
This is a judge-free zone because we've said it before on here. Not to get all sensitive, but like everybody does it for their own reason, right? You've been hunting for I don't want to date you for 40 plus years, probably.
I don't know. I'm not that old. Jeez, Phelps.
35 plus years.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just talking, maybe not hunting, but out in the woods, dinking around.
Oh, yeah. My whole life.
So, I mean, you've been doing it for a long time. You've accomplished certain things you set out to do, and you may have a different goal set than the guy that just picks up their bow. Or are we allowed to use adult onset hunters? I think it's acceptable
Absolutely.
nowadays. These adult onset hunters, like they're specifically out there to fill their freezer with organic meat. So any hide or hair that's legal, like that may be their goal. Me or you, like I'm going into this unit that took me 20 years to draw. And I'm going to hold I'm going to eat the thing. Don't get me wrong, but I'm going for the maximum amount of horn on their head, the maximum amount of age on their body. Like you're going out there for some specific things. So they can't get this wrong, but I'm curious, like from a user's perspective, would you rather hunt a marginal? And when I say marginal, you might run into elk every 3 days or hear a beagle every 3 days, or would you rather hunt the best unit in your state every 7 years? At this point,
I want both. Can I say that? I want both.
No.
I want to hunt. I want to hunt elk every single year. So, and that's what I do now. So, and sometimes like in 2022, I hunted arguably probably one of the worst units in Idaho to hunt. And the last couple of years, rifle hunting too. So I want to hunt every year. I want to have those opportunities to hunt every year, and I'll sacrifice opportunity at seeing big animals just so I can get out there and then try to use my woodsmanship, use my hunting skills, use my scouting, my time on the ground to find the places where I'll have success. But I don't want to wait every 7 years to hunt a really good unit. But I do want the opportunity someday to hunt, a really great unit. There's a elk unit in Idaho. I would give anything to hunt, but who knows? I may not ever draw that tag.
May not get it. It's tough. And that's where hopefully when we get into like overall strategy, you're trying to accomplish both of these things at the same time. You try to keep that maybe marginal unit every year, but maybe use other states for a quality pitch or a change up, to your normal system. So we'll get into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
How would you define opportunity? We talked a little bit prior to the podcast, like what is opportunity? Is it just having your bow in your hand, or is it, what would you describe as opportunity? Everybody talks about quality versus opportunity versus, but I think opportunity is very vague in what people would consider that.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty broad definition, but it depends on who you ask, and then maybe through the lens that I see the world, or you see the world, or whoever's saying it sees the world. To me, opportunity, depending on where you're at, I feel like a good opportunity hunt would be, I can have the opportunity to hunt, number one, of course, but I'm going to have the opportunity to see animals. I'm going to have the opportunity to get away from people and have a good hunting experience. I'm looking for a good hunting experience overall. Now, it doesn't have to have giant animals running everywhere, but maybe there is a nice one there somewhere, and I actually seeing animals. Different game departments may see that different. They're like, it's an opportunity for you to buy a tag and to go hunting. Then that's kind of how they see it. The state of Idaho, I'll pick on them a little bit. They have always said, we're an opportunity state. We're not a trophy state by any means. But I kind of feel like they use that term pretty loosely. Yeah, there's some of these places you do have the opportunity to buy a tag and go hunting, but you may not have the opportunity to see very many animals or whatever, depending on the area, of course. So you have to, that's where I guess doing research on your own and like getting kind of nerdy and like breaking down each area that you think you might want to hunt and try to like figure in the numbers to figure out if it's something more than just being able to have a tag and like get outside and go hunting. I'm like, everybody likes to get out there and enjoy the hunt, but you also like to enjoy the meat, the harvest, whether you're killing an animal or maybe have the opportunity to try to kill one,
Yep. Yeah. And I like to use extremes to explain the example. So you could say, the state could say they provide an opportunity if they take every archery elk hunter in the entire state of Washington, put us in the tiniest little mud flow unit next to Mount St. Helens, right? That's technically an opportunity, but it's going to be the worst hunting experience of your life. Or you can say, I'm going to give one lucky tag holder, and he's the only one that can hunt the entire state of Washington. Like those are both opportunity, but it's a completely different experience. I think and the only reason I'm trying to define this is because this word opportunity gets thrown around a lot. Like it's very minimum. It's just a tag, a chance. But like in reality, you really, maybe even the best hunter has a 0% chance of killing anything because of the odds they're stacked against you. When I'm going out, when I talk personally about opportunity, if I hunt hard 5 to 7 to 10 days, I'm going to get 1 to maybe 3 opportunities, right? Maybe more, maybe lower on the end. I'm going to get a chance. And there may be a 2 or 3 day stretch in there where it's a ghost town or I haven't figured the dang place out. Yeah. But eventually that takes a little work, maybe a little more hiking, maybe a little more dedication to an area, maybe getting up early or whatever. But if I can hone in and use my skills and figure out like, I want an opportunity at an elk, whether I blow it, whether the setup gets screwed up, whether they win me, whatever it may be, like that's kind of how I determine an opportunity. Give me a shot, maybe 1 to 3 shots over a 7 to 10 day period, and I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
With that opportunity.
I think that's a fair analysis.
Yeah. And this is a little side question, kind of went away from the quick fire. And I don't know, I mean, COVID gets a lot of blame for this, and it's obvious, as us both being in a business, we track it, we've seen it. We've seen tag numbers. We could watch Colorado put out a data set, like first time tag applications skyrocketed that first year of COVID. Do you feel like this current pressure for the allocation of big game tags or like the ability to even get them is ever going to subside, or do you think it's here to stay? I know, and I always struggle with this, and I should have did some research on the data. I'm a horrible podcast host because of this, but you always hear like hunting's dying or hunters' numbers are going down from this point to that point. I want to know, is it tag numbers have to be falling at the same rate, or somebody's lying to me? Like do you feel, or do you think there's any sign that this like request, this demand for these tag numbers is ever going to go down, or is it stuck and it's here to stay?
Man, I think right now it's so popular, so trendy to come to the West and hunt, which I get it. Like, I see the allure. I participate in it. Like, I love hunting, like in the West. And I think that is probably at an all-time high, the popularity. Like Idaho, like you said, 10 years ago, you could buy, if you wanted to go hunt Idaho archery elk on the last day of season as a non-resident, you could show up and buy a tag at the gas station. Now they sell out in the first couple hours of the first day in December, the December before the season, before the hunting's the next fall season. So I don't know if there's, I don't know. I feel like trends kind of come and go. Popularity. I know back in the certain heydays of hunting, different places, used to be kind of like huge, popularity, but then something happened. Maybe it's not as cool anymore. Maybe those people don't care about it anymore. Maybe that population aged out into where the younger generation's not backfilling. But they say hunter recruitment's down across the United States. And and they always say, well, it's not necessarily the people coming out West to hunt. It's the young people in the other parts of the United States. They don't have the kids, getting into hunting, going hunting with dad, grandpa, grandma, whoever, mom, whatever. They don't have those kids backfilling numbers as hunters every year, which I definitely can see that. And it's tough with kids hunting. I mean, you're competing with instant gratification of video games, social media, whatever you want to watch, digital videos, movies on demand at any time, anywhere you can. That you have so many options of like instant gratification for kids these days, to where hunting, well, let's just, we all know we're all hunters. It's hard. It's, the days can be long. They're physical. The weather can be super hot, super cold, somewhere in between, but it's definitely not an instant gratification. You have to put in some work and then reap the rewards. And I think with just society today, it's really hard to compete with that. So overall, I think numbers are falling, but I feel like the saving grace may be once people grow up and they see what life has to offer, and they're just like, dude, I'm tired of spending my vacation time sitting looking at four walls or whatever. There's got to be more to life. And they learn about Western hunting or hunting in general, wherever they're at. And then maybe that adult onset hunter, that's the new answer. Like, that's going to perpetuate hunting through the future. But I feel like at some point it may not be quite as popular.
Yeah. I talked to my dad about, they used to travel to Montana and do a little bit of out of state hunting, but I feel, and not saying this is bad, but like, I feel like a lot of guys with the internet, social media, everybody out East is now applying, right? Or they see how easy it is to just plan for this and just go do it. So they're getting their group of 3 to 4 buddies together and they're coming out West, making it like a yearly or an annual thing. Not, like I say, not saying it's wrong. Or they're able to apply from their desk in whatever it is, North Carolina or, New York or wherever it may be. Those guys can sit and apply. They draw, great. If not, then they put the same amount of money in that we did. And it's putting, like you say, we may be losing some of those numbers or that recruitment, but we're getting maybe some pressure on the Western system from the guys back East that love to hunt. They're just more willing to come out now. So it is, I don't necessarily know, it is an issue it makes it tough for a guy that selfishly wants to get my own tags, but I don't know if there's a fix for it or not. And the last thing I want to do is wish like ill will on the economy. Like, I wish people would just struggle more so I could, and I would be in a good spot so I could hang in there.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what the right or wrong answer is, but
during that
I do have a crazy
COVID bubble.
Yeah.
I mean, people had a lot of extra money maybe in their pockets from all of the the Biden economics or whatever. They had that extra money in their pocket. They're like, I've always wanted to go elk hunting X and right wherever. And they buy the gear, they try to get the tag, or they do buy the tags. And I think that's where one of the big upticks has come now. With the economy's a little different now. Things are expensive. Maybe families are having to cut back here and there, and you may see a downtick, in some of those numbers. But I feel like a lot of people make that a priority once they've tasted that fruit. Man, they want to go again. They want to go hunting again, and they'll make other sacrifices. They're not going to buy, maybe 3 lattes a day. Maybe they'll cut those out of the old budget.
Yeah. So I got a crazy idea. I'm going to see if you are in support or you'd be unsupportive of my idea.
Well, most of the time when you got a crazy idea, I have to raise an eyebrow.
I know. And I'm going to be a hypocrite for saying it, because right now I'm doing the opposite of what, and you would too, because it would force you to choose. But, what if all United States, all 50 of them in the union got together and said, we're all going to join up because opportunity is so thin. We're going to let you hunt 1 elk within the 50. We're going to let you hunt 1 mule deer within the 50. We're going to let you hunt 1 white-tailed deer. But somehow, and I don't know how you'd manage it or how you'd do it, but there was a pact I'm going to call it the United States Hunting Pact. And it's going to just limit, Dirk wants to apply for Colorado elk and he draws it, then he's got to return his Idaho tag this year. Or he draws an Arizona tag, he's out of all the other. And I don't know how you manage it, but would you be in support of something like that, where it's getting more back to what do you need in your freezer to survive, and not so much as an entertainment, I guess. And like I said, I'm a hypocrite right now, right? I've hunted elk in 2 to 3 states for the last 10 years. I've hunted mule deer, whitetail, whatever it may be. But do you think hunters would support that? Would you support that? Have I not thought it through all the way? Is there a way that if it could somehow magically happen, that it would be good for everybody's experience and opportunity?
Man, this reminds me of those little game my kids used to play with me. Would you rather? Would you rather eat a piece of dog poop or have a bird poop in your mouth? I mean, some ridiculous, I don't want either one of these things. This is terrible. It's almost like one of those kind of questions. Would you rather questions?
We've all seen plenty of gadgets and fads come and go, but here's one product that stood the test of time: Seafoam Motor Treatment. Lots of hunters and anglers know that Seafoam helps engines run better and last longer. It's really simple. When you pour it in your gas tank, Seafoam cleans harmful fuel deposits that cause engine problems. I'm talking common stuff like hard starts, rough engine performance, or lost fuel economy. Seafoam is an easy way to prevent or overcome these problems. Just pour a can in your gas tank and let it clean your fuel system. You probably know someone who has used a can of Seafoam to get their truck or boat going again. People everywhere rely on Seafoam to keep their trucks, boats, and small engines running the way that they should the entire season. Help your engine run better and last longer. Pick up a can of Seafoam today at your local auto parts store or visit seafoamworks.com to learn more.
There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
But what if you saw this open up some Arizona top tier units because somebody drew their dream hunt in Colorado or Utah, right. And so I was trying to think of the positives that could come out of something like this. And
as you were talking, I was kind of thinking of that thing, man, and I could see people having that same mindset, I'm going to really try to go to these certain places and then overlook these other places that are really good, especially if after a couple, 3 years and not having a lot of pressure, yeah, that may just satisfy. I'm not, it's not like a body count every fall. I want to go,
Yeah.
just tag as many elk as I possibly can, but it's more of a experience. And you feel like, okay, if I can have 3 elk tags, it's a game of odds, right? One of those hunts is going to be really good. Because of timing, populations, lack of other hunters, area, terrain, whatever it is. One of those 3 are going to be really good compared to maybe the other 2. But if you had to pick one throughout the whole gamut and focus on that, I'm not 100% against it. I'm not going to say no bullshit, but I'm not against it. I mean, that could open up some cool opportunities.
Yeah, I just see, like, me personally, and not saying I'm doing it because it would benefit a lot of guys. And I don't know how you do it. Like, if the application you select, like, I'm going to apply and drop down this time Utah, or you select, and how you do it. But let's say, I don't know how, if you had to pick one and you can only apply for one to start with, like, then it would be just a big gamble of where you thought everybody else was going that year.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Arizona's got a great horn growth, I'm going to sneak into Utah, or I'm going to go to Nevada, or I've got enough points in Wyoming or Montana. Like, I feel like people would slip in with a lot less points. And it would really, if you assume everybody applies for all the same Western states, would put 80% less pressure on the units. Everybody's at a different point level, but it would ultimately clean itself up, I think, relatively quick. And like I say, I don't know how the hell it would ever work. Like, how do you fund the agencies, and how do you do the split of money and all of that? But I like the thought of the idea that, like, I would love that system if it gave me a more quality hunt every year and I got my one elk hunt. But
yeah,
like I say, then I'm becoming a little bit selfish again. Like, I need to make sure I get my one elk hunt. And this system may have some way where, hey, guess what? You applied for some mediocre unit in Wyoming the same year that everybody else did the same strategy, and you're out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've always tried to think, like, how do you fix a log jam? And I don't know if I've got the right answer, but just an interesting idea. But you had a good segue of, in your little spiel there on, like, just coming up with an overall strategy. Let's talk about that a little bit before we wrap this one up and give some key dates that people need to remember. Me and you both, I don't even want to count how many states we apply for. What, 8, 9, 10 states across the West, maybe more, maybe less, for elk and deer every year.
Yeah, less than that for me,
Yeah.
but I know between us, maybe.
Yeah, somewhere right in there. So
Yeah.
I think I apply for 7 or 8, being from Washington,
Okay.
because it sucks so bad here.
Yeah.
So going into that, Dirk, tell us a little bit about your strategy. And I think we have similar strategies where we've got a couple states on, like, you fortunately have Idaho as your standby. You can always hunt there. And then you've probably got some states on what you'd call, like, more of your opportunity rotation. Then you got some states more on your, quality rotation, and how you manage that year to year.
Yeah. So yeah, for the long game. So I'm going to play a long game for, like, a once in a lifetime type of hunt, and that's my Arizona tag. So someday I'll apply. I've got enough points to draw a subpar unit. Definitely. I could probably hunt some of those late season archery, late season rifle kind of hunts, like you alluded to earlier, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that experience. I'm looking for the hunt where there's lots of bulls bugling. I can chase bugles all day, and just, like, you just keep going over the next ridge, and you never know what you're going to see. You may see a giant, you may see a 5-point, but it's just like the quintessential Arizona hunt. So that's my one long shot hunt. Someday I'm going to draw that, hopefully. And then I got the stuff in the middle. So those are, like, your Wyomings, Montanas. You can't hunt those every year as a non-resident, but every few years you can get lucky, draw a tag to go there. But I don't apply typically for their premium units. What I'm applying for is just their general not over the counter, but their general units, to where I'm going to have more opportunity to draw a tag in a pool of opportunity there to hunt more often, whether every 2 to 5 years, be able to go to those places because they're beautiful. They have a decent population of animals, and you never know, you might see a big one. And then there's the every year thing, which like you said, I'm fortunate to live in Idaho, which as a resident, there's plenty of over the counter opportunities. Like every year I can go down, buy a tag for whatever unit, there's way more opportunity over the counter units in Idaho than there are limited units. So I'll be able to hunt, I'll be able to hunt elk, deer, whatever here in Idaho. I just have to narrow my scope of where I want to go. Some units, like I kind of alluded to earlier, are very tough, a lot of animals in them, but other units are really good. But typically when you find a unit with a lot of animals and a lot of tags, you'll find a lot of people too. So it's kind of like that balancing act.
Yep. And I'm in the same boat. I look at Arizona as my, once in a lifetime. I'm a little behind Dirk. I'm at like 12 or 13, and the way it's kind of running away, maybe I'm going to have to settle on something that's not your once in a lifetime type hunt, because I don't know if I'm ever going to catch up to it. And then Utah, I look at one time, I was going to kind of miss the lower end units and try to get into just a mid tier unit. Some of those, premium units. I'm not spoiling anything for anybody. The San Juans, the some of those units, like I'm just never going to catch up to them. I could get lucky. So I'm looking at Utah as like a quality, and then I've got Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Oregon, Washington, kind of on this rotation for my every year. Worst case scenario, if anything ever fell through, I would go to Colorado. The nice thing about Colorado is it has so much over the counter opportunity. I'm able to kind of keep my points as I'm going there. So I'm kind of building up for a decent rifle hunt or a decent muzzleloader hunt, something that's a better unit outside of just their general archery over the counter stuff. We talked a little bit earlier about having to stay up on it and educated. One thing that's like weighing in this year is you watch Wyoming make a change between their special and general, right? And so maybe you've been eyeing like, well, I can get in a half year earlier under special, but guess what? Now you better want to pay $2,000 instead of $900 or whatever it is exactly. So they're changing. You hear about what Wyoming did on their oil tags. They went to 90-10, where right now their deer and elk's not 90-10. The day Wyoming switches their...
Well, explain to our listeners what an oil tag is, because you kind of threw me off the first time you said to oil.
Okay, so a once in a lifetime. So your sheep, your goats, your moose. Yep. Acronym for once in a lifetime. Most states have them as once in a lifetime. Some states you may be able to have like a waiting period and jump back in as a resident. But for non-residents, even in Washington, like if I draw a moose, sheep, goat, it's a once in a lifetime type tag. So Wyoming a couple years ago switched to a 90-10, and by 90-10, 90% of the tags have to go to residents, 10% can go to non-residents. Well, that skewed the numbers quite a bit from what the past draw odds are. So let's say right now it's taking us 3 years to draw the tag that Dirk wants, just a general elk tag. If they go from 80-20 to 90-10 at now, and this is exact math, is going to take you 6 years with the same exact candidate pool. So like there's things like that where people that may have 10 or 11 points, they're just getting close enough to a unit they want. Like they're starting to now strategize whether they're going to jump early or maybe shoot for a lesser unit. Because if they don't shoot for a lesser unit and do that before the change, they've now just bumped themselves down into way below the unit they can get into right now. So like as hunters and people that are into the game, like we're following that all the time, trying to make sure that you're getting the most out of your points. And it just depends. Like sometimes I'm willing to like sacrifice what I thought was going to be a good quality hunt for an opportunity before something like that comes down the pipeline. Idaho, I always apply for Idaho and New Mexico. 0 points on their controlled hunts. I feel like it's a level playing field. I've got no more, no less opportunity to the next guy. But then there's strategies within that. Like if I've already got a pretty full plate for the fall, I may swing for the fences on Idaho controlled deer and elk, right? Like if I'm going to get a tag, I'm only going to change my plans for premium. Where if my schedule's looking real thin, I may decide I'm going to go for a controlled hunt in Idaho that's got 10% draw odds, which is pretty good, So there's strategies within that. Same thing within New Mexico. You can set up every Gila unit and have a 2% draw odds when you get done, or you can start to look for some mediocre muzzleloader units and maybe have a 30% chance of drawing a tag. So it really just depends on what you want to do, what your goal is, and you have to kind of just manage appropriately. And like I say, me and Dirk I think I can speak for both of us. We're always going to have that guaranteed tag, whether it's Colorado, for Dirk it's Idaho, for me it may be Western Washington. Might not be the greatest hunt, but I know I'm going to get a hunt elk every year, and then I'm using the draws to kind of supplement maybe something mid-tier and then something like really high tier, if the draw odds are in my favor, I guess, at that point.
Yeah. And there's one thing we didn't talk about yet is like state raffles too. So I think almost every state has a raffle. Like you buy raffle tickets, and for, some kind of, like in Idaho, they call it the super hunt, right? And you can apply, there's 3 or 4 different things. It's like, maybe you apply for those once in a lifetime, moose, sheep, goats, or it's elk, or it's any animal. Like if you draw the super tag, you could hunt any of those. So it just depends. So it's just a raffle. You got Hunt Expo, they do a bunch of raffles there. So, then there's auctions, for the big money guys that want to throw a bunch of money. I mean, I can't do it, but people can maybe get a governor tag or whatever. So there's those options too. But for I've never done any of those raffle tags, which I should, just, put a tiny little bit of money in there. Cause if you don't win, if you don't play, you can't win. Right. So maybe I should be putting in for some of those raffle tags.
Yep. I mean, we all know people that have drawn them, I think.
Yeah.
And, landowner tags are options. Some of these states do landowner tags. We've used those a few times ourselves when we've had horrible luck in the draws and couldn't line stuff up. So, whatever your butt, and sometimes I hate that money gets involved in opportunity, but it's the reality. And, if you're set up to do it, by all means, somebody's going to hunt with that tag regardless. Right. So I've never felt guilty about that. If it's my lifestyle, it's what I don't go drink on the weekends. I don't chew a can of Copenhagen every day. It's like, it's my lifestyle choices, so I can save up this little bit of money and not get into me and my wife's budget and make it work. But
it's funny.
It's
funny. I've used this job I used to have. Then when I first started going out of state the first time I went to Wyoming, I came back, and one of the guys at work said, "Well, how much did that cost you to go?" I'm like, "Well, the tag was, I don't remember, back then it was like 500 and some bucks, and you got fuel, you got your food, and la 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 la." And he goes, "Oh, it must be nice." Like I had all this extra income to throw around. But it's like, well, if you break it down, because that particular guy, he drinks a lot. Well, if they cut back on like one of the 2 bottles of vodka a month that they buy, he could have paid for that hunt. It seems like we can replace our vices maybe with something, maybe a good vice, like change your vice, like from coffee stand lattes or a lot of extra drinking or whatever, partying at the bar. You can take that money, just shove it in your pocket for tags and elk hunts and deer hunts, and now you can afford it.
Or he didn't see you behind the scenes eating top ramen every night for dinner for 6 months, so you could afford to go.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Top ramen and deer meat.
No, it's all priorities. Like we probably over prioritize this compared to a lot of people, but it's important to us. It's part of my identity. I have to be out in the woods chasing something, so we do put a lot of priority on it. And to close this up, Dirk, we're just gonna, you kind of left me to this. You're like, hey, that's your thing. So I'm just gonna kind of walk through some important dates and deadlines if it's a state that interests you. And one thing that I'm not going to mention in this, which Dirk is probably going to kill me after this, is certain states will have second draws or leftover tag draws. I'm just going to say pay attention to those states if there's opportunity, because a lot of times people like forget about the initial stuff will pop up, and there's always opportunity. I think multiple states offer leftovers. You can either redraw, or sometimes it's on a first come first served basis. So there are limited opportunities. I would say it's getting tougher to get than it was in the past, but there are those opportunities in addition to the applications or controlled hunts. So Arizona, like I said, Arizona is actually the day we're recording this podcast, February 6th, deadline, I believe at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So by the time this comes out, I apologize if you forgot, but you missed elk and antelope. Next up will be Montana. Its deadline will be April 1st for deer and elk. Colorado will be April 2nd, so you get one more day to pony up for Colorado. Colorado is one of those states where you just have to buy a small, I hope I don't get all this wrong. This is going off years past. That's why you should always check with the most up-to-date Fish and Wildlife regs. Colorado, you have to buy like a small game license. You have to have a license in your pocket in order to apply. Montana, you have to front the money for the entire big game combo, which I think is approaching 1,300-ish for the big game. Deer and elk. Elk separately might be 9. Deer might be something to that effect. I'm going to get them all wrong.
It's expensive.
Utah's end of April 25th. You got to be in for deer, antelope, elk, bison, moose. They do all theirs and their oils at the same time. Then we go into Nevada. You get another week off. May 8th, you need to be in for Nevada bonus point system. Nevada requires you to buy a license and then buy each species point. Oregon is then May 15th. Once again, it does have some over-the-counter opportunities. So if you do apply, you don't have to at least, I believe, buy your license again there. Washington, you have to buy your license. Its draw is May 22nd. We're super late. And then Idaho, like always, pulling up the rear. June 5th, you need to be applied in Idaho so that you have zero time to ask for your leave or get physically prepared for that hunt when you find out that you drew. Because I think they let you know, like, what, mid-July for non-residents? It's crazy late.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So those are just some of your important dates. Like I say, if there's certain states, go confirm those dates, but that just kind of, you're applying anywhere from, like I said, today, Arizona kicks it off. Wyoming, I believe, was due on the 31st for elk of January. So it's over. Idaho over-the-counter stuff is already done way back on December 1st of the previous year. So coming up, we've got, we got New Mexico, Montana, Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Oregon, Washington, Idaho. Are still all out ahead of us from the time that this podcast will air. And you got a little bit of time after Arizona kicks things off here in February. So the next time you'll have to pay attention is New Mexico will be coming up next on March 20th. And then everything's, pretty quick in the spring, April, May after that. So those are kind of the dates. Like I say, come up with your own strategy. If it's 100% straight opportunity, you don't care whether you're hunting horns or not. Like, there are a lot of cow opportunities out there too. And hopefully the fish and game departments are doing their job right. And it needs to have cows taken out for the right reasons. But yeah, do you have anything else to add, Dirk, on what you look for? Like anything we may have forgot, like as you head into a winter, trying to plan your hunts that you think about?
No, it's really helpful is because my memory is about as long as my pinky. So, it's important to maybe go through those different states that you're interested in and write down the dates, the important dates, when the application opens and when it closes, and put that on your calendar, on my phone calendar. That way it pops up. I'm like, oh, I can start applying for Arizona. Or tomorrow is the last day to apply. I better get my act together and get it in. Because it's easy to get busy with life. I mean, you and I live this stuff, and there's been a couple times over the years where I'm like, oh shoot, that was like, I think last year I asked you about Colorado, and you're like, yeah, that was like last month. I'm like,
yeah, I was a real nice friend there. I really helped you out and asked if you applied.
Thanks a lot, Phelps, for reminding me. Yeah, I see how it is.
Oh yeah,
team player.
Trust me, I'm like 2 Arizona deer points behind my elk and antelope because they throw it off in its own little category later, and I've missed it multiple times. But yeah, it's tough to miss. And I think there are some apps out there. I don't even know which ones do it. There's got to be an app out there that reminds you on draw deadlines, or like you, I'm the same way where I'm just going in. I take these dates I just read off to you guys. I've got them all plugged into my calendar, and a week or two ahead of time. Because I'm telling you what, there are states where you try to apply on the last day and their systems go down or servers, and some of them just don't allow you a redo. So if there's any technical difficulties, I want those to happen, 7-10 days ahead of the final day.
I had an app on my phone that I got like in 2013. I think I paid the guy $1. It was something ridiculous cheap, and he just started out. And you went in and you picked the states that you had points in and stuff, and you would get reminders through the app and text messages. Well, that was like 4 phones ago, and I delete, you know how you clean out your phone, you delete apps like, yeah, this stupid thing, whatever. Well, I still get text messages on the states at the time that I had points in or I was applying in, but the new stuff, it doesn't remind me. So, and I don't remember the name of the app. It's like, man, if I really wish I remembered what that app was, but it was like Point Hunter or Point Save, Point something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot. There's got to be I like I say I don't use them, but there's got to be something out there. But that's kind of our strategy, kind of our management of trying to get some tags. And we appreciate all of you listening in. And if you have any questions for us, once again, send them over to us, ctd@phelpsgamecalls.com, or hit Dirk up on his hotline, which he's going to give us right now.
And let me.
I didn't have you.
You should have have you ready. A little better.
You were prepared earlier.
Yeah,
that's all right.
My fingers were faster than you were talking, but it's 208-219-7701. Kind of like those infomercial guys on the radio. And also, if you just want to get on there and leave a message and say how good Maverick diaphragms are versus pink Phelps ones, that's cool too. I mean, I love hearing that, and I can always forward those to Jason.
Dirk, just for that, I'm going to put that phone number on a Craigslist ad for free firewood in the Boise area, and I'm going to destroy your line for that little. No, I'm just kidding. I've never done that to you, but all right. No, we appreciate y'all. Yeah, we appreciate y'all. Good luck. And you're hunting for tags. There's 2 seasons now. You hunt for tags and you get to hunt for the animal later. So good luck, everybody. Appreciate you all, and take care. Outdoor adventure won't wait for engine problems. Things like hard starts, rough performance, and lost fuel economy are often caused by fuel gum and varnish buildup. Seafoam can help your engine run better and last longer. Simply pour a can in your gas tank. Hunters and anglers rely on Seafoam to keep their engines running the way it should the entire season. Pick up a can of Seafoam today at your local auto parts store or visit seafoamworks.com to learn more.